We got a new lawsuit that's now been brought by the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, Mayor Ras Baraka, who's also a candidate for governor and has often been talked of as a candidate for the president of the United States. He was arrested falsely by Alina Habba, the acting interim U.S. attorney for New Jersey, who used to be a criminal defense lawyer for Donald Trump, who's one of Donald Trump's lead inner sanctum advisors, who was put there for political purposes only. And she's used that office to go after, in a political vendetta, those that oppose Donald Trump and his policies. And when Ras Baraka was arrested along with members of Congress for doing their job and inspecting a new immigration detention center in Newark, which is called Delaney Hall, but is actually run by a private prison company that had given a lot of money to Donald Trump, when he was arrested there. And then later those false charges were dismissed, but not before Alina Habba had already defamed Ras Baraka in public, in social media posts, from her perch as being the U.S. attorney for New Jersey. Now we've got Ras Baraka fighting back, filing a new lawsuit in the District of New Jersey Federal Court under the Fourth Amendment for false arrest and malicious prosecution. I'm going to go over the case for you, why it's important, and what's going to happen next. I'm Michael Popok. You're on Legal AF. Let's take a minute, hit the subscribe button if you like this kind of content. Let's get into it. I have a copy of it here. I'm going to post it on Legal AF Substack under Filings AF. But let me give you the highlights and remind you of what happened. There is a detention center that's operated in the largest city in New Jersey, which is Newark, New Jersey. I'm a proud son of New Jersey, just not of Newark. The members of Congress who went pursuant to their obligations and their right to supervise things like detention centers showed up at the detention center. They were met by Department of Homeland Security and some private security guards that operate. At one point, one of the employees of the GEO group, this private prison company that supported Donald Trump and now has a detention center to show for it, invited in Ras Baraka because there was a crowd, a seething crowd there outside, and they thought he could help calm the crowd. He was invited in. At some point, Ricky Patel, named now in the suit as a defendant along with Alina Habba, who is an officer of the Department of Homeland Security, told him he needed to go, and then started to block the other members of Congress from doing their job. There was a scuffle. Patel, according to the complaint, ordered his other officers to take down Ras Baraka. And as you would expect, Ras Baraka has also claimed, and I believe he's right on it, that race played a role, that Alina Habba wanted to see a black, strong male mayor be in handcuffs, strapped behind his back for a perp walk that she could use for political purposes, regardless of the fact that it ended up defaming, of course, Ras Baraka and causing him emotional distress and the rest. Let me read to you from the actual complaint. I've talked to you about the GEO group. Here's what it says on page 3 about Habba. Then we're going to also talk about a hearing in which a federal magistrate, and I reported on this on Legal AF, took down Alina Habba for her violating her prosecutorial ethical duties. I don't think she knows what ethics are. And Magistrate Judge Espinosa told her so, and that's part of the complaint as well. On paragraph 11, on page 3 of the complaint, defendant Habba has made her biased political goals explicit. Days before being sworn in as the U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey, she said that the senator from New Jersey, Cory Booker, and the Democratic governor, Phil Murphy, had failed the state of New Jersey. She then announced that she would turn New Jersey red. That was another one of her goals. Hopefully, while I'm in office, I can help that cause. These goals are antithetical to her role and ethical obligations as a U.S. attorney, the complaint alleges. On May 9th, 2025, 3 members of the United States House of Representatives, Bonnie Watson Coleman, Rob Menendez, and LaMonica McIver. Representative McIver has also been indicted in this case, arrived at Delaney Hall for an inspection of the facility. At 1:54 p.m., paragraph 20, the GEO group guard at the gate invited Mayor Baraka to enter inside the fence to calm the crowd. Well, how do you get charged with trespass if you've been invited in by the operator of the facility? Very good question. Paragraph 22 on page 5 at 2:33, defendant Patel for the Department of Homeland Security approached Mayor Baraka and told him to leave, even though it's owned by the GEO group, and had invited Mayor Baraka onto the property. Moving on to paragraph 31. In paragraph 30, this is a few minutes later, egged on by defendant Patel, after Mayor Baraka left the property, 20 DHS agents armed and masked descended on the mayor and members of Congress without attempt to calm fears or ensure peace. Egged on by defendant Patel, who ordered the DHS agents to take him down, meaning violently tackle the mayor of Newark. The agents pushed, shoved, and assaulted the mayor's security team and members of Congress before violently pulling Mayor Baraka's arms and arresting him without probable cause. They put his arms behind his back for what Alina Habba's office later called a petty offense. Then on paragraph 34, this is the false narrative aspect of the suit. At 3:05 p.m., before Mayor Baraka had been transported from Delaney Hall, hours before the criminal complaint was filed against him, before he had been fingerprinted and photographed, Alina Habba on her personal account said the following: "The mayor of Newark, Ras Baraka, committed trespass and ignored multiple warnings from Homeland Security. He has willingly chosen to disregard the law. He's been taken into custody." Paragraph 35, defendant Habba issued the defamatory statement and authorized the false arrest of Mayor Baraka despite clear evidence that he did not commit trespass. She then gave an interview on paragraph 36 on Fox News, in which she made other false and defamatory statements, including that Mayor Baraka refused to leave, was put under arrest inside the facility, walked out when he was told he was under arrest, and then was cuffed. It's called grandstanding, unfortunately. When you break the law, there's no grandstanding that will help you. That's all a lie. He then says on that same day, Habba and Patel conspired in promoting a false narrative about the events, including going on CNN and making false statements there that are listed. Paragraph 40 calls out Alina Habba for what she did. The false affidavit was made with malice, particularly seeking to assure that the evening news included videos of the black mayor of Newark, New Jersey being led away in handcuffs by federal officials. She also threatened Mayor Baraka with further charges unless he gave up his rights, which he refused. Then the complaint properly goes to May 19th, 10 days after the arrest, when Habba dismissed the charges, but had to do it in person before a federal magistrate judge, Espinoza, who chastised Habba in open court. He said, from the transcript, paragraph 49, "Your office serves the 9.5 million people who live in the District of New Jersey. This is an immense responsibility, with which comes an imperative for meticulous diligence and unwavering integrity. The United States Attorney is representative not of an ordinary party to a controversy, but of a sovereignty whose obligations to govern impartially is as compelling as its obligation to govern at all. Your allegiance is to the impartial application of the law, to the pursuit of truth, and to upholding of due process for all. Your role is not to secure convictions at all costs, nor to satisfy public clamor, nor to advance political agendas," says Judge Espinoza to Alina Habba. The hasty arrest of Newark Mayor Ras Baraka, followed swiftly by the dismissal a mere 13 days later, suggests a worrisome misstep by your office. An arrest, particularly of a public figure, is not a preliminary investigative tool. It is a severe action carrying significant reputational and personal consequences, and should only be undertaken after a thorough, dispassionate evaluation of credible evidence. So let this incident, Judge Espinoza said to Habba, serve as an inflection point and a reminder to uphold your solemn oath to the people of this district and to your client. The apparent rush in this case, culminating today in the embarrassing retraction of charges, suggests a failure to adequately investigate, to carefully gather facts, and to thoughtfully consider the implications of your actions before wielding your immense power. Your office must operate with a higher standard than that. Couldn't put it any better. That was an invitation, apparently, obviously, for Ras Baraka to file his case for constitutional civil rights violations, which he has. Count one is a charge, what we call a Bivens action, for violations of the Fourth Amendment and false arrest. for all the reasons that we just laid out. Count 2 is a Fourth Amendment of the Constitution rights violation for malicious prosecution. Count 3 is a state law claim for defamation against Alina Habba, that she has stepped out of her protected, privileged role as a prosecutor, does not have that protection because of the things she did on Fox News and on CNN and on her social media posts, which are inconsistent with the Department of Justice manual. And that's your count 3. And that's been signed by Nancy Erica Smith for Smith Mullen, who has brought this suit. We will see the judge that's been assigned. We will see the next steps here. Alina Habba has already said, this suit doesn't scare me, and I invite Ras Baraka to join me in trying to crack down on crime in New Jersey. Talk about tin-eared response. We'll continue to follow it. It's important that people who are unfairly targeted in violation of their civil rights by this administration fight back. It's important that lawyers join them in that cause. It's important that judges like Judge Espinoza call it out. We can't allow Donald Trump to, we know with velocity and ferocity, he's trying to be rogue in chief, felon in chief. We got to continue to stand behind the barricades, hold them up, hold up the guardrails of democracy, and hold him accountable. And we'll do it here together on Legal AF. I'm glad you're here with me. I will post this complaint on the Substack for Legal AF that we're continuing to grow under Filings AF. Check it out there. And of course, thank you for being here on Legal AF. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the Legal AF podcast on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time as well. I got a new podcast called The Intersection, which is on Tuesday nights on the Midas Touch Network. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.